Hey everyone, ready for the 2025 election? We're going deep on something you might want to think about for that.
Oh, yeah.
It's about this Michael West Media article, actually.
Okay.
Came out December 23rd, 2024.
Okay.
The LNP's nuclear policy is working just fine.
Hmm.
And it got me thinking, does truth even matter in politics these days?
That's a big question, isn't it? Especially with this article.
Yeah.
The author, Michael Pascoe, points out that Peter Dutton's nuclear policy announcement has been basically completely debunked by experts.
Yeah.
But it still seems to be working for him.
Yeah, that's what's so weird. Like, experts are saying, hey, wait a minute, this isn't adding up.
Right.
But it seems like a lot of voters just aren't paying attention to the details.
It's almost like it's more about the image of strong leadership.
Yeah.
And having a plan, even if that plan is not actually, all that sound.
Right.
Than it is about the actual facts.
Yeah.
In fact, Pascoe even compares it to how Donald Trump did politics.
Oh, yeah, the whole fake news thing.
Exactly. Creating a simple story, repeating it over and over again, and drowning out anyone who disagrees.
So in this case, the story is nuclear energy is the answer to all our energy problems. It's clean, it's cheap, and it's the future.
Right.
But the article is saying, hold on. There are a lot of hidden costs
Yes.
and complexities that nobody's talking about.
Like, for example, the huge amount of money you need up front to even build nuclear power plants.
Yeah.
The ongoing issue of what to do with nuclear waste and the security risks involved.
The big deal.
All super important issues, but they don't exactly fit in a catchy campaign slogan.
It's almost like they're betting on voters not really wanting to get into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
They just want a solution, and they want it now.
Which is understandable to a point, I think. We're all busy.
Yeah.
Politics can be really complicated.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to just feel overloaded by information.
Absolutely.
And go with whoever seems to have it all figured out.
But that's kind of dangerous too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't pay attention to the facts, how can we make good decisions about who to vote for?
That is the core issue here, for sure.
Yeah.
And Pascoe argues that this whole thing of relying on simple narratives and this impressionism politics, it can actually erode trust in good sources of information and make it even harder to talk about important issues in a nuanced way based on the facts. He actually uses this really interesting term to describe what the LNP and their media friends are up to.
Oh, yeah.
He calls it flooding the zone.
Flooding the zone.
Basically, it's pushing these simplistic, positive stories through media outlets that support them, while more detailed critical analysis gets completely buried under this wave of noise. It's like you're at a rock concert and you're trying to have a serious conversation. Doesn't matter how loud you shout. You can barely hear yourself. Nobody can hear you over the music.
So we're being bombarded with information, but a lot of it's just noise to distract us from the real issues.
That's exactly the concern. And this isn't just about nuclear energy.
Oh, right.
This can be used for any complex issue. It's about creating this illusion of strength and decisiveness, even if it means sacrificing truth and accuracy.
What about the actual cost of this whole nuclear plan? The article kind of hints that maybe the numbers aren't as solid as the LNP are making them out to be.
That's right. Pascoe points out that these costings were supposedly provided by an economic modeler named Danny Price. But there's this interesting quote where Price mentions being contacted by Ted O'Brien's office a few months after he did an interview about nuclear energy, expressing interest in his work.
So they went looking for someone to support what they were saying instead of doing a thorough analysis first.
Yeah.
Almost like they had the answer they wanted before they even started looking at the data.
Makes you wonder.
Right.
About how thorough and independent
their costings really were.
Especially when you think about Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor promising a 44% reduction in power bills under the LNP nuclear plan.
Yes.
Sounds fantastic.
It does.
But is it actually possible?
That's what we need to be asking as voters.
Yeah.
Are we getting sucked in by promises that are just too good to be true?
Yeah, it's like that saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly.
This reminds me of when Trump promised to bring prices back down to pre-COVID levels. That was obviously never going to happen.
Yeah.
But it played into this image of him being a strong leader who could fix anything.
And that's why Pascoe makes that comparison.
Right.
Because it shows how powerful these simple, emotionally appealing promises can be.
Yeah.
Even if they're not based in reality.
So how do we cut through all the noise and figure out what's actually true?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We can't just take everything we hear at face value.
Right.
We have to be more critical, more skeptical.
More willing to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, okay.
Look for what's underneath. And that leads us to something else Pascoe brings up that I thought was really interesting.
Oh, yeah?
It's this idea that aggressive legal action can be another way to silence critics.
Oh, right, like when Trump sued that pollster in ABC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even if those lawsuits didn't actually win, they created a chilling effect.
Right.
You know, if you're a journalist or a media outlet and you know that criticizing a powerful figure could mean an expensive legal battle, you're going to think twice before you publish anything negative.
It's like intimidating people into censoring themselves.
Exactly. And it feeds into this wider erosion of trust in the media and information sources. When people feel like they can't rely on traditional institutions to give them accurate and unbiased information, they're more likely to fall for misinformation and manipulation.
It's like a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Then the more misinformation there is, the harder it is to tell truth from fiction, and the easier it is for politicians to get away with promises that aren't based on reality.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important for us as voters to be aware of these tactics and to approach information with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Okay.
We need to be asking ourselves, who benefits from this narrative? What information is being left out?
Yeah.
And what are the potential consequences of just accepting this at face value?
It's like we have to be our own fact checkers now.
In a way, yes, we can't just passively consume information anymore.
Right.
We need to actively engage with it, question it, cross-reference it with other sources.
So how does all of this fit into the upcoming election? We've got the LNP pushing this nuclear agenda, but there are other parties and candidates with different views. How do we weigh all of that when we go to vote?
That's a great question, and it brings us to another key point from the article, the role of the teal independent candidates.
Oh, yes. The teals, they've definitely made a splash in recent elections.
They have, for some might not know, the teals are a group of independent candidates who are generally seen as centrist or center-right.
Right.
They're often well-educated professionals, many with backgrounds in business or law, and they tend to focus on issues like climate action, integrity in politics, and stronger action on social issues.
So they're shaking things up, challenging the traditional two-party system.
Exactly. And Pascoe suggests that the teals could have a major impact on the 2025 election, especially if the LNP wins but doesn't get a majority in Parliament.
So we could end up with another hung parliament where the independents hold the balance of power.
It's definitely possible, and that puts the teals in a potentially difficult position.
Yeah.
They've been outspoken critics of the LNP's climate policies, and many of their supporters are really worried about the environmental impact of nuclear energy.
Yeah.
But if they want to have any real influence on policy, they might have to be willing to negotiate with a Dutton-led government.
So they're walking a tightrope, trying to stay true to their principles and their voters' concerns.
Yeah.
But also being pragmatic if they want to achieve anything.
It's a delicate balancing act, and it highlights how complex our political system is, where compromise and negotiation are often necessary to make progress.
So going back to this idea that truth doesn't seem to matter as much in politics anymore, what does that mean for the teals? Are they going to be able to hold the line on truth and evidence-based policy, or will they get caught up in this impressionism politics?
That's the question we'll have to wait and see the answer to, but I think it's a vital one for voters to think about as they assess the different candidates and parties.
Yeah.
Are we going to reward those who focus on simple narratives and big promises, even if they're lacking substance?
Right.
Or are we going to demand more from our leaders, more transparency, more accountability, and a stronger commitment to truth and accuracy?
It's a big choice, and it feels like the stakes are higher with every election.
They are, and it's up to us as citizens to decide what kind of future we want.
So as we head into the 2025 election, how can we as voters ensure that truth does matter? What can we do to see through the noise and make informed decisions?
I think it starts with acknowledging that we each have a responsibility to be informed and engaged citizens.
Okay.
We can't just rely on other people to tell us what's true or what's important.
We need to do our own research.
Yeah.
Ask the hard questions, and be open to challenging our own assumptions.
Exactly. And we need to be wary of information that just confirms our existing biases or that seems too good to be true.
Right.
We need to be willing to seek out different perspectives and to engage in respectful conversations with those who hold different views.
It's about being open-minded, but also critical.
Precisely. And it's about understanding that democracy isn't a spectator sport.
Right.
It requires active participation, thoughtful consideration, and a commitment to seeking truth even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient.
Feels like we're being asked to be detectives now, doesn't it?
Yeah, sifting through all the clues, trying to figure out what's really going on.
Trying to piece together the truth.
Yeah, we live in a time where there's just so much information.
Right.
But also so much manipulation of that information. Yeah.
So it's not just about finding the information, it's about figuring out, can you trust it?
Yeah.
Where'd it come from?
Right.
What are the biases behind it?
So just reading headlines or watching sound bites isn't enough anymore.
No.
We have to really dig in, look at the evidence, and consider the motives of whoever's giving us that information.
Absolutely. And I think that's especially crucial when it comes to elections.
Yeah.
We're constantly bombarded with messages from all sides,
Right.
each one trying to get us to vote a certain way.
Yeah.
But how much of what we're hearing is actually true?
Right.
How much of it is spin?
Yeah.
How much is just straight up lies?
It can be exhausting.
It can.
And I think that exhaustion can make people apathetic.
Mm-hmm.
They might just tune out completely and think, what's the point? It's all rigged anyway.
I get that feeling, but it's a dangerous one.
Yeah.
Because when we disengage from politics,
Right.
we're essentially giving up our power.
We're letting those in power shape things to benefit themselves without any real accountability.
So what's the answer then? How do we stay involved and informed without getting totally overwhelmed?
There's no easy answer to that, I don't think.
Right.
But I think the first step is recognizing that democracy is not a passive thing. It takes effort, it takes paying attention, and it takes a willingness to have those tough conversations, even when they're uncomfortable.
It's like we can't just sit back and expect someone else to fix things.
Yeah.
We have to actively participate in building the future we want.
Exactly. And I think one of the most important things we can do is to support a culture of truth and accountability.
Right.
That means calling out lies and misinformation when we see them, holding our leaders to a higher standard, and demanding policies that actually work and are for the good of everyone.
So it's not just about being informed ourselves. It's about helping other people be informed too.
Absolutely.
It's about having those difficult conversations with our friends and family, sharing sources we trust, and pushing back against the spread of misinformation.
We all have to take responsibility for this.
Yeah.
Because truth does matter.
Yeah.
It matters for our democracy, our communities, and the future of this country.
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me.
Yeah.
It's made me realize how important it is to be an active and informed citizen, especially with the election coming up.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, even with all the noise and all the manipulation, your voice matters. Right. Your vote matters.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
So stay informed, stay involved, and keep asking those tough questions.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Hope it gave you some things to think about as you figure out how to navigate this upcoming election.
Yeah, good luck with it all.
And remember, the truth is out there.
It is.
It might take a bit of work to find it.
Yeah.
But it's worth fighting for.